All right, let's talk Buffalo Bills. All right, so where should we start? Let's start with the roster changes, right? I think Proppy already has it up on the screen. 1 second. Let me pull it up so I can see it on my screen as well, so I'm not just speaking blindly. The first thing that I think needs to be pointed out here when it comes to the Bills roster changes is their defense should be fine. And I know that sounds a little crazy because you're looking at the subtractions here. Dotson coming off an awesome year. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. There's some serious names that are gone from this defense. But keep in mind, this McDermott defense showed us last year that it's a little bit plug and play as far as next man up. And also keep in mind, all right, they lost Dotson. Well, they got Milano back. He missed majority of last season with an injury. So they lost Dotson. They get Milano.
When Milano's back, he makes the whole team run pretty much. So
yeah, so Milano's back there instead of Dotson. Also, Tre'Davious White, I mean, he misses so many games every single year anyway. And that defense is fine. Poyer, they lost. Obviously, Poyer and Micah Hyde is significant. But they got that kid Benford in the secondary. They also got that guy from the Chiefs, Edwards. They got the starting safety played the entire season for the Super Bowl champions. So I believe in this McDermott defense, and I think it's going to be top 5, top 10 yet again because I believe in what McDermott does, and they still have a lot of talent. They probably still have the best defensive line in football. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, their defensive line. I mean, I agree. Their defensive run, their run game on the defensive side should be good. The passing, I don't know if they can get to the quarterback as much, but like you were saying, with the corners, they still have Teron Johnson, Rasul Douglas. They're still 2 quality corners. Even though they lost Tre'Davious White, Jordan Phillips, Shaq Larson, Leonard Floyd. I mean, you still have a bunch of good players that are going to fill in. So Cole Bishop's going to have an impact as a rookie in the secondary, I think. He was decent at Utah. He made the second team All Pac-12 last year. I mean, it's definitely it's going to be a big transition, especially if you're talking about the offense. I'm more worried about the offensive side than the defensive side, personally.
Yeah, I had Proppy scroll down and put on the pass rush numbers because Scoop mentioned the pass rush briefly. They look okay. I mean, 6th in pressure rates, 3rd in adjusted sack rate. Maybe this year a little bit of a drop off. Andy?
Yeah, I was definitely going to say what he just said about drafting Cole Bishop. That replaces the 2 safeties who were, let's be honest, they were older anyway. They were both hurt all the time anyway, Hyde and Poyer. And then I know we haven't gotten to the offense yet. Obviously, I thought they replaced the offense pretty well. I thought they did a good job there. But yeah, I expect them to still be a great defense. Like you said, McDermott, I trust him. I'll believe that he's going to have a bad defense when he has one. I don't see it yet, so I don't believe they're going to be bad on that side. I know a lot of people are worried about this team overall just dropping off. I don't see it. They need to prove that to me because they're pretty damn consistent recently. So I trust their coaching staff enough.
Yeah, I mean, plus Joe Brady's going to have his first full year now as offense coordinator.
Joe Brady.
I mean, they're going to probably let James cook now. Finally, even though they run a spread offense, they need to relieve some of the pressure from.
I'm not sure how I feel about Joe Brady though, but one last. Okay, so we'll move on to the offense. But first, I want to mention that look on paper they brought in a new DC, right? The guy Bobby Babich or whatever, but he's not new. He's been with McDermott forever. In fact, he was with them on the Panthers back in like 2012. So that they coached together on the Panthers, then they went their separate ways. And then when McDermott got the Bills job, he brought that guy Babich in to be like a defensive assistant or something. So yeah, they have a new defensive coordinator this year, but it's not a new defensive coordinator. It's still going to be McDermott's defense. So all that to say, I know you see a lot of really huge names, big names with nice looking Madden ratings leaving the Bills defense, but I expect that defense to be just fine. But now Scoop mentioned Joe Brady. So let's talk about the offense. And Prop Beaver was kind of calling bullshit on the Bills offense a little bit.
Well, he's a Jets fan, so
I know. Is it a homer statement though? He is a Jets fan. He's usually pretty objective, and he's actually a pretty negative Jets fan.
Yeah, he definitely is.
So, all right, like Scoop said, Joe Brady takes over the offense. What was that, week 9 or 10? Joe Brady took over?
Somewhere around there.
Week 11. So what a lot of people saw was Joe Brady takes over as OC. then the Bills start winning some games, and they beat some good teams. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the shit out of the Cowboys. They almost beat the Eagles. I think that was in Philly on Thursday night, like on prime time. They looked awesome. So Joe Brady takes over the offense, and what on the surface, it looks like the team was saved almost. But if you actually look at the efficiency numbers, the offense really didn't get much better, if at all. In fact, it seems like what they did. Can you show up this is the rushing? Okay, so you can see the yards per carry number actually went down. The yards per game went up. They ran the ball a shitload more. Look at rushing attempts per game. They were running the shit out of the ball. And the reason it wasn't so much the efficiency that was working. Go to the time of possession one. Is that time of possession? Okay, cool. So now look at the time of possession. This is where it helped. Is they held on to the ball more, which helped out their defense because their defense is the bigger story. Check this out. Go to the defensive one. EPA per play. So the Bills had all those injuries, right? But look at the second half. Look what happened to the defense when Joe Brady took over. Insane. One of the best defenses in football despite having all those injuries. So what Joe Brady did was hold on to the ball a little more and hook it up for their defense. Also, there's probably a little bit thrown in there that McDermott just needed a few weeks with all the injuries to get his new pieces in there and working. So the defense looked great. I don't know, though, the efficiency numbers for the offense. You guys are believers in Joe Brady?
I've always been. Yes, I've always thought when he's given enough talent, and I know he showed it when he was in college more than anything than in the NFL. When he has talent, he knows how to call an offense. And I think I thought, and I might be only one here, I think their offense is going to run smoother this year. They now don't have a star receiver that they have to worry about.
Beaver's pissed.
Of course he's pissed. I'm not a star. Look, I think a lot of offenses run smoother when they don't have star receivers. I don't think Keon Coleman's coming in and acting as if he's a star receiver. I don't think any of those guys are acting like. Now I think the ball will be spread out there more. I thought they added Ray Davis from Kentucky. That was huge to spell James Cook. That's a great guy to have as your second back. I know he has a lot of mileage on those tires because he was run like crazy last year at Kentucky. I remember, I think there was one game he carried the ball 25 times, had like 200 yards or something like that against Florida. He ran a lot in college, but I think he'll be a good secondary back for them. So I think their offense is gonna move smooth, and I think with that type of style, I think Joe Brady will be very successful.
Yeah, I don't mind Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's a good offensive coordinator. I just don't know about their wide receiver depth, to be honest. I mean, you got Curtis Samuel, who's okay. I think Valdez-Scantling's hit or miss most of the time, and Mac Hollins just doesn't matter. So, I mean, it's a good opportunity to get Keon Coleman right in there and making some plays as a rookie. I mean, he's funny as hell, too. I love that guy. It'll definitely be different. It's certainly going to be worse, I think, in terms of Josh Allen's numbers. But I'd imagine Kincaid is going to get a ton of targets this year. And Dawson Knox is always reliable, too. So, I like their defense a hell of a lot more than their offense, personally.
Well, okay. Here's the thing with what Andy was just talking about with Joe Brady, and he thinks the offense will run smoothly. Was James Cook's success in the second half of the season, was that predicated on the necessity for opposing defenses to make sure they had two safeties deep at all times for Diggs and Gabe Davis? And if those guys are no longer there, I feel like that makes stopping James Cook and Joe Brady's run-first offense a hell of a lot easier, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. I think that would be a good way to kind of be anti this offense, is if they don't have a running game and if it's not consistent enough, then yeah, they will struggle. I personally think they have a good enough running game and a decent enough O-line to make things happen at that spot that it'll open up the passing game.
Well,
but you make a great point when they don't have to worry.
Pull up their blocking numbers. So it's on the spreadsheet. It's
They didn't draft anybody, so clearly they're okay with it. They drafted a center at the an OT in the 6th and 7th round. So clearly they didn't feel like it was that big of a need.
Yeah.
Okay, so Prop Beaver's getting the blocking numbers up. So
I mean,
adjusted sack rate first. And yeah, I saw that because I know Josh Allen's pressure to sack rate is first. That's on the right side. You can see under his face there on the right. Never mind. You scroll down go up to the offensive line.
They're run blocking first, and
Yeah.
ALY.
So
run block
the
was
offensive
15.
line. Did they lose any pieces off the offensive
They
line?
lost their center, Morse. Oh no, they lost. Yeah, they lost
Ryan
Morse
Bates.
and Bates. Yeah,
So they lost 2 centers.
yeah. But they only drafted guys late in the draft, so clearly they felt like they had the depth to not make that a necessity in the draft. I would guess that that's their strategy. Otherwise, it's just a terrible draft. To not worry about any offensive linemen in the first 5 rounds. So
Yeah,
I
they signed like Will Clapp too. I mean, and Lyle Collins they signed too. So I mean, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, Lyle Collins. All right. So real quick before we go on to the college football, if you had to pick over 10.5 wins, under 10.5 wins, go. Someone.
I'll go over. I'll say over.
Did you even look at their schedule? They play
Yeah.
at Baltimore, at Houston, at Seattle.
You know how I feel about Houston.
Jesus.
I think they are the biggest regression candidate in
Kansas
Seattle.
City, San Francisco, at Rams. Oh, you put it up? There's no way they're winning 11 games. This is
Yeah, it's definitely a year of transition. Books still have it at 10.5, but they're still tied for 6th in odds in Super Bowl, plus 1,500. Josh Allen's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, even though he makes some dumbass plays sometimes. He's still the best quarterback in the division. I think writing them off is crazy.
So they're starting 3-0.
Plus, did you know in the last 3 years,
a loss, bro.
in the last 3 years, the Bills haven't lost a game by more than 6 points. In 3 years, they haven't lost by more than 6 points. That's nuts. Plus, playing at home since 2020, they have the best winning best winning record, 79.4%, best in the league. It's hard to play there during the winter, and that division, I don't know. I don't really trust the Dolphins. I think they're gonna have a down year. So yeah, I like the Bills over.
Yeah, they get home games against KC and San Francisco late, like he said. That's big. Not playing those games on the road.
That's still 2 losses. Actually, they have a bye.
Nah, they're gonna beat the Chiefs.
I mean, are we gonna? The Chiefs don't always.
At Jets, that's a loss.
All right. All right.
Nah, I'm putting under up, but minus 155. There's no way this makes my top 5. Like,
yeah, it's rough.
All right,
it's definitely a team that it's probably the toughest team in that division. I think to predict. I think the Jets are more predictable than them.
You guys both picked over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Prop People's going to put it up. We'll put them off the screen. Then we'll move on to the Florida International Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
This year
I'm
will be
going to
known
seem negative as hell today with some of these teams.
Well, it's Conference USA, so really, how can you be really positive?
Fair. I think